Hi there, I'm Jen Ferguson with Artistic Painting Studio, and today I'm going to take you guys through a project on how to use one of our rollers to create a fun door hanger. Okay guys, it's time to have some fun here. I'm starting on a 14-inch round, and we are going to start with our texture medium to create a roller pattern. Okay, so we're going to be rolling through this product, and the texture medium basically was designed to work with the rollers. Okay, so I just put a big blob of it out, and you can spread this out with one of our little mini trowels, a regular trowel, or if you don't have a trowel at all, I'm going to show you guys how you can actually move this product also with just using a chip brush. Okay, so if you have a trowel, you can just keep moving it around until you cover the entire round. And I still might even have too much product on here. Okay, when you are working with the rollers, it really doesn't take much more than an eighth to about a 1/16 of an inch to have enough material to roll through. Okay, so as you can see, I'm kind of moving it around the surface to try to get some areas that were too thick a little bit thinner, and areas maybe that are too thin where we can get a little bit more product over there. So when you do use a chip brush like I'm working with right now, it is definitely going to create some texture, okay, which is not a bad thing, but you're going to have this like strié pattern in the background. Okay, I got a feeling that we're still really heavy on one side, but we're going to give it a shot, okay? Now I'm going to roll in the same direction that I've kind of created that strié, so that I'm not creating directions, or multiple different directions, I should say. Okay, I stuck my finger in there, so let's get that cleaned up. And then we're just going to grab, sorry about my reach there. This is our crocodile pattern, okay? And the rollers are designed to go through a wet medium as the texture medium, but you could also use them with paint, with glaze, stain, all kinds of different things. But make sure that roller is rolling freely, okay? If it gets too close to the handle, sometimes it will not roll as easy. And I'm going to go straight down the middle and then work out to either side. So just roll straight down towards you, and then I'm just going to match up, and I'm going to flip over because I always like the handle side on my surface, because now I'm going to be kind of on and off of our surface here, and roll out to finish that side, and then I'm going to do the same over here. And that's it. Okay, so we've got our base to start with. We're going to let the texture medium completely dry, and once it's dry, we're going to have to do a little bit of sanding, and I'll try to get this raised up here so that you can see. When you roll through the texture, it does peak the material. So if it's on thicker, it's going to peak it a little bit more, and you're going to have to sand all that off. So just wait for it to completely dry, and then we'll come back and do some sanding. So the texture medium is completely dried, and I just grabbed some 150 grit sandpaper. I took this outside because I try to minimize sanding in the studio, but basically you're just wanting to sand off any of those areas that seem like they're just high and sharp, okay? So when you are rolling your pattern roller through, it peaks that edge as it rolls through, which brings those up into some high peaks, and that's just where it gets a little rough. You don't want to get rid of your texture, okay? So as you can see, I still have a gorgeous print here that we're working with. Once you do that, just clean it off, and then you're going to be ready for paint. We are going to use my Bondago in black, And I'm going to paint the entire surface, including, okay, I almost forgot to do this first, including the outside edge, because I did get texture medium on that edge, so I want to get that painted as well. A lot of times I don't bother, but because the texture medium got on there, we're just going to make sure that I got that sanded well first, and then come in and paint that edge. Then I'm just going to go to a roller, and we are going to roll the entire surface black, which crocodile looks so awesome in black. And make sure you go in both directions because we got a lot of texture to fill here. And anywhere that the texture is a little deeper, you might have to just make sure you're rolling vertical and horizontal to get that completely covered. Okay, and then I'm just pulling my roller marks all down in one direction, and we're going to let this dry. As you can see, we have not lost the crocodile pattern, okay? It's just not as dominating as it was where you saw the texture medium breaking through to the MDF in that natural tone. So I'm going to let this dry, and we'll be back for our rest of our steps. Okay, our Bondago black has completely dried, and you can see how cool this looks just leaving it as is. Okay, you've got a great texture and a nice backdrop for our word. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is I have a cutout that says blessed, and I'm going to go ahead and foil this. So the next thing that I need to do is to put our foil adhesive on here. So I'm going to grab our nice big container of foil adhesive. The stuff looks milky white in the container, as you can see, and I'm going to pull out some of it with a foam brush and just put it onto what I always refer to as my sticky plate. And that way I can work it into the brush, just pounce off any of that excess. You don't want a ton of it on your brush when you're doing this. And that same pouncing technique that I was working on the plate is how I'm going to put my layer of adhesive on here. So this will keep the adhesive on the top edge, or I should say the top surface of your cutout, and it's a great way to always do any kind of cutout, whether it is a design or a word or letters. This way you don't have paint seeping down the sides and edges. Once I get it on there, I do like to pounce over a second time and try to soften up some of that texture, because you can see how heavy it's going on right now. So either just keep pouncing until you've offloaded most of it from your brush, or you can even flip your brush over to the cleaner side and just pounce it down. You're not removing it, you're just trying to soften the stippling texture that you have created by pouncing. And this will just give you a smoother surface if you soften it up. Okay, once you have the foil adhesive on, you're going to want to let this dry for about an hour is recommended. You can definitely let it dry longer, but I wouldn't let it dry any less. The longer you let the adhesive dry, it will dry to a harder, firm tack, and normally always give you a better release. So I'm just going to hold this up so hopefully you can still see that there's a little bit of texture. It looks milky white still. It will dry completely clear, and then we'll come back and add some foil. But in the meantime, because I'm going to leave our texture just as is, I'm going to use our final coat to seal this. I'm going to use low gloss because I don't want to make it super shiny. And to apply this, it's basically considered a wipe-on varnish. You can brush it on, but it's easier just to do it with wiping it on. So I basically just tip the bottle over to the sponge. I'm not pulling them away from each other, but it just allows a little bit of material to get down into the sponge, and then you can just wipe it on. Now, as you can see, it's looking a little bit milky white because I probably had too much in there, but just make sure that you either pounce out that excess, because it should be going on super thin, and you'll want to do a couple of coats. So let this dry for about 10-15 minutes, and you can put on another coat and another coat depending on how many you feel you need. I normally will do 2 or 3. That will give this really good coverage. If I'm planning on this going exterior, okay, so I'm not sure if it's going to go interior or exterior, you could definitely change your product and go to the Modern Masters Master Clear Supreme. That's a mouthful, guys. And you can use gloss or satin depending on the sheen you want, but this is an interior and exterior product that has UV protection. So choose whichever one's going to work best for where your project is going to go. Okay, we're going to wait for everything to dry and we'll come back for some more fun. Okay, guys, it's time to do all the final touches and bring this great project together. So our round is completely done. It is sealed and ready to go. And like I said, I'm just keeping it the gorgeous crocodile finish. So I'm going to put that aside for now. And our word blessed is dry. The foil adhesive has had long enough to dry and give us a really good tack. So we'll get a good release. And then I also picked some ribbons that I think are going to go well with the foil and kind of bring everything together. So let's do blessed first. And I'm just opening up my foil and I'm just going to pull this over the top. I got a little air going in here, so I want to make sure that the wind did not blow that, okay? And then just scrub. So I'm using a plastic scrub brush. This is like a nail brush. Plastic bristles. The stiffer, the better. And just scrub over all of the letters. Get a good transfer here. And the nice thing is, as you're going, you should be able to see the word coming through as it's sticking to the adhesive, okay? And then there are times that our little burnishing pads will also work really well because we have such a small surface to work on. Sometimes the scrub brushes are a little big for that, so I'm just going to go back over one more time, scrubbing with the burnishing pad, and then let's start to do the peel and reveal. And as you're pulling it away, if you see any area that you feel needs to be scrubbed again, you could just lay that foil right back down, scrub over that section, and then keep doing that. But critique as you're going. Don't pull it all off and then go, oh wow, I really would like to see if I could get more transfer there, because right now it's going to fall right back into place, but trying to line up this whole piece would be very difficult, okay? So I'm just going to see if I can catch that one piece, and then I'm going to go from this direction and see how we've done here. Okay, there we go. Voila! That looks so awesome. And I hope you can see that well. Okay, it's definitely going to catch the light. We've got, this one is called Leopard Junkie, and it has silver, kind of a bronzy color, and then the black. So like I said, I grabbed some fun ribbons, okay, trying to bring all these colors in. I'm bringing in the leopard. I used some orange to kind of bring in that bronze color because it's a deep burnt orange. And this is definitely going to be for fall time. So those are the ribbons I'm going to use. And you guys, I'm definitely no expert, okay, but I'm going to show you how to make a ribbon. But first, because we want to get this whole thing sealed, I'm going to, again, use the final coat, but this time I want to go gloss or semi-gloss, okay? So I'm going to definitely switch to semi-gloss and load some of that onto the sponge. And you can have different sponges going. You can have a sponge going with semi-gloss and one going with the low gloss, so that you can always have your sponges ready to go. I'm just going to pounce this on and then brush it down, making sure we're getting good coverage. I will definitely put 2 coats on here because I want to give good seal to this so that it doesn't fade or weather if it goes outside. Now, I'm using final coat which will give it some protection. But if you know it's going to go outside, you might want to step up your game and go to like Master Clear Supreme by Modern Masters, because it's also exterior rated. Okay, so I got one coat on there. We're going to let that dry. And then I'm going to show you how to make a simple bow. Okay, we're going to use, if I can get it out of here, I got too much stuff I think on my table. We're going to use the Easy Bow Maker. Okay, I guess I could flip this around this way. I don't know why I always have the spool on the other side. And I'm going to start with my widest ribbon first. And I'm just going to pull the ribbon right through the two wood pieces here, so that you can determine how big you're going to make, or how long you're going to leave your tails, as well as how wide or big you're going to make your loops to your bow. So I'm actually going to make that a little bit shorter because I don't think I'm going to go that long. And then every time you come through, you're going to twist in the center before you make your loop, so that your pattern is on the correct side, okay? And then figure out how big you want your loop. Okay, I'm going to go 5 inches. I think 5 inches is good for the size of our round, because our round is 14 inches. So by the time I do 5 and 5, we got a 10-inch bow basically. Okay, and again, remember, you're going to twist again so that the pattern is on the correct side, and keep looping it back through, or feeding it back through the holders here. And depending on how big of a bow you want to make, you can go 2 loops, you can go 3, you can go 4. It really, I think, is a personal preference on how big of a bow you want to make. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go for at least a third, maybe a fourth, okay, just because I really like the orange and I want to see a lot of orange in this one. And I'm going to make these just about the same, just a tad smaller. Okay, I'm going to go for 4. So I'm going to keep twisting. So it's going to be a big bow, okay? But that's okay, because all we're doing is we've got the crocodile finish, and then the word bless. So we don't have a really busy sign going here, okay? And then I'm pulling it up the other direction. I'm going to try to guide that my tails are about the same length. And my trick with the tails is I'd rather cut them too long than too short, because I could always make them shorter, you guys, but I can't always make them longer. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use my silver next. And I'm using the silver because I really want to bring that into the pattern, because the background of that foil is all center silver, so I want that to really pop. And again, this is a 2. We want to flip our ribbon over and twist it each time so that the pretty side is showing. I'm going to go down to 4 inches. Okay, so I'm going to make this loop only 4 inches long. Again, you're going to twist. Also, all of the ribbons that I use are wired ribbons, which I would highly suggest, because you can do so much with a wired ribbon versus not wired ribbon. Okay, so all of the bows I'm creating are definitely wired. And then keep twisting it. And even though I've got a 4-inch loop and I want these close to the same size, I always have a tendency to make it a little bit smaller on the second one if I'm doing 2 on each side. Okay, I want to make sure I'm getting a good twist there so that my ribbon's going to lay down nice. Again, make that a tiny bit smaller and pull my tail out the other direction. And I'm going to keep these all about the same length to start with. And the nice thing about the Easy Bow Maker, it's going to hold everything that you do, okay? So I'm pinching it all in there really well as I'm making it. And let's hope I got enough of this one, okay? Good thing I picked this one to go last. Okay, I'm going to make my tail just a little bit smaller because I don't want to run out of this beautiful ribbon before I'm done here, okay? So we're again going to twist it through the middle. And I want you guys to know that the more of these I make, the easier they tend to get on getting your ribbons to pinch and getting everything the way you want it. My first couple of ones, I felt like a total dork, but that's okay. You know, everything takes practice before you become easy and it becomes comfortable, okay? I think this one here, I'm just going to do a triple, okay? So I'm going to do 2 on each side, and I'm going to do a third one again in the middle, and this one's going to be a little loop because I want that to hide the center of my bow. Okay, so this one's only going to be about an inch or so. And then again, could pull my tail down that direction. And oh good, we did not run out. I had plenty, okay? And then cut that off to start. Oops. Okay, so everything is being held in there. Oh, I didn't have much, guys. I couldn't have gone too much further. A good call to stop on that. The next thing I like to use is pipe cleaners, which is going to hold everything together. And you want to pinch all of your ribbons together well while you're pulling this out, and then use your pipe cleaner across the top, loop it to the back side, okay? And you can just twist as tight as you can possibly twist, okay, to keep everything together. Now at this point, I'm just going to wait on doing anything else to my bow until we put the whole thing together, and then I'll start fluffing this. I'll cut my dovetails depending on how long I want the tails to be as it's positioned on the round. So we'll be back to put it all together. Okay guys, it's time to put this all together. So the first thing I want to do is, before I attach anything, I want to flip over my door hanger and get my twine on here. Okay, so what I'm going to try to do is make sure I've got this straight as I lay it down, okay, that I know that that is the center. And then I'm just going to use some jute. And I never make this too big. But I like going straight across because that way I know that it is going to be straight when it hangs. So I'm going to pull it both ways using my staple gun over the top, okay? Trying to make sure that's straight as I do it again. Okay. And I'm sure there's all kinds of different ways to do this, but now I can cut the end. I'm going to make a knot so it's not going to come back through. And then I can pull that tight, determine how high I want this to go. Okay, and that's about right, because I don't like it always being too much. And then again, cut off those ends, tie them in a knot so that they don't pull through. You can trim off your ends as well. I'll do that later. Okay, now we have our holder, okay? So our jute to hold it all. And then to attach the word blast, we're just going to use our foil adhesive. So I'm going to flip over our word. It's super lightweight, which this works great. And I'm just going to use some of our foil adhesive. This is such a great way to attach. It's a pressure sensitive adhesive. So just take some out, put it onto your plate. Got too much stuff here on my desk, okay? Trying to move everything around. and then pounce it on to the back of the word blessed. And this time you're not going to be worried about it being a little bit thicker and having texture, because all we're going to do is let it tack up, and we're going to adhere it to our round. And because we have texture on our project, I'm making sure that this is on here thicker than usual, okay? Because we need to get this to stick, and we got all kinds of texture from our roller. But once you have it on here, and like I said, you're not putting it on like you would for foil transfer. You're going to put it on, you're going to let it be thicker, and then we're going to let that sit and tack up for maybe 5 minutes, okay? It still looks wet and white, so we want that to tack up. So I'm going to put that aside for a minute. And then we can get our door hanger back down here, and we can determine where we're going to put this. And I'm probably going to put this just slightly off-centered. Okay, I'm not one who normally puts anything in the middle. I don't know. I think it's just being an artist for so many years, I'm always off-centering things. So the first thing I want to do is trim off my pipe cleaner and get that out of the way. So I just have these nippers for wire cutters, and that way I don't ruin all my scissors. And sometimes it's easier for me to do this towards me, okay? Our word, okay? Just to get a visual of maybe, okay, I'm just setting this on here. It's probably going to hang off a little bit of the words, and just kind of get an idea of where I want to put this, okay? So I think I'm going to put it down here. I'm going to go offset a little bit. Okay, we're going to get that back out of the way. But now I got adhesive on my hand, so great little trick for you guys to get the foil adhesive off of you in between projects. If you accidentally get it on you, wet wipes work super well. So if you have those handy, you can just wipe your hands off. Okay, and now I'm going to go for whatever my bottom layer is, okay, whether it is a tail or a loop. That is what I'm going to go ahead and staple down using just a staple gun. And on this side, it is one of the loops. Okay, again, I'm going to go a little off-centered. And this side, it's the tail, but I think I'm actually going to do the loop as well, okay? So I'm doing the bottom loop on both sides to secure it. Okay, now that it's on there, now I can really start to play, and I can start pulling things apart and figuring out where I want them to be. You can have all your tails going up, or all your tails even coming down. Remember, we did 4, so 2 on each side of our first 2 ribbons that we used, and then we only did the 3 on the last one. And what you're going to do is just open up that little piece in the middle, and then that will be the loop that hides. Okay, so that just hides your pipe cleaner or anything else that you have in the center. And I can still fluff as we're going, but I'm going to start to determine how long maybe I want my tails and cut them into dovetails, okay, which is just at a slight angle, so you get that little point. So folding them in half works really great, and then cutting them. And I'm normally not going to cut them all at the same length, okay, so I'm going to play with the different lengths of my tails there, and do the same for the ones up on top. And remember, you can always make things shorter, but you can't make them longer. So if you're not really sure how long you want things to start with, go ahead and make them a little long, and then always could go a little shorter if need be, okay? But you want to fold them completely in half. Okay, make sure your ribbon is straight and then cut, because that way you'll get a nice, perfect dovetail. And then you can start opening up your loops, moving things around whichever direction you want. So this bow is going to come alive and get a lot bigger here, okay? All my ribbons are wired ribbons, so you can move, you can bend, you can get everything to move the way you want in the direction that you want, okay? So I think that is looking pretty darn cool, okay? And this is a simple bow. There's nothing hard about it. So that's going to be the top, okay? Let's check on our adhesive. I think we need another minute or two on the adhesive, so we're going to wait for that before we flip it over. Okay, just make sure you wait until it has cleared out. You don't want it looking milky white when you flip this over. So let me just flip. We can always move our ribbons around a little bit if we want to get those out of our way. Determine where we want this. Make sure it is straight. And then just push it into place. I would definitely put some weight on here and let that sit for a little while so that it adheres well, but there you guys go. We are completely done. Such a fun and easy project, and thank you guys so much for joining me. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me for this super fun project. For a complete list of all your materials and supplies, check the description below, and make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my upcoming tutorials.